I'd like to take a quick look at how to put together the program writing applications that calculate. You've had a chance to create it on the computer. Now I'm going to take you through it and we'll take a look at some of the things that you've run into. First tasks are to set the form properties. It's best if you begin with the form. So let's give it a name. In this case, form calculator. And we'd also want to give it a proper caption so that the window title is logical. So the adder. You'll notice how that changed. I think the form needs to be a touch bigger because the default looks like it's a touch too small. We will need a few things. We'll need instructions. For that, we choose a label. Here we have our label, and let's give it something along the lines of instructions. Enter the numbers in the two text boxes and press the command button to compute a sum. How about that? We do have to make one minor correction. Since I missed an S, there we go. I don't really like the font. It's a touch too small. So let us update the font size. 12 looks a little better. It's nicely wrapped, so it looks somewhat okay. Next label. This one, I'll let us have this one labeled as first, or not labeled, but captioned first number. And we do not need to give this a name because we will not reference this in code. And let's update the font so that it's decent sized. How about size 12? Make it a touch wider so that it fits. And here what we can do, since we've got it set up nicely with a font that I like, I will copy and paste. And here is a rather important question. You see how it asks you, do you want to create a control array? Well, we don't. So what you ought to do is click on the No button. If you do, it will create problems for you if you are referencing these items in code. Now, I'm going to intentionally misalign these two, and I can show you a little trick. Let's update the captions. Second number. It's not quite wide enough for my taste. Now, we want these to be lined up. Let's align them left. So the trick to doing that is you click on one item, shift-click on the next, and shift-click on the third. The last item that you click on is the one that will be chosen for the alignment purposes. Now, if we go up to Format, Align Lefts, you'll notice that everything is now lined up with the instructions, which is the last item that I clicked. Add some text boxes. Actually, why don't we finish off with the sum? So we will copy second number, paste. No, I do not want to create a control array. And caption sum. And you'll notice that matches. Let's align it. So let's align it with second number. Align lefts. Oh, coincidentally, it was aligned. We need two text boxes. Here is our first text box. And again, I don't quite like the font. Let's increase its size. Make it 12, something decent. I also don't like to see text in my text box. So we get rid of text 1 from the text property. And last, let's give it a proper name that we can reference in code. txt first. Press enter now that it's neatly updated. I've set all my properties, and once again I can be lazy and copy this control and paste it. So right-click copy, right-click paste. And remember, we do not want a control array. No. Let's bring this down here. I only need to make one modification, and that is to update the name txt second. Let's line these up. So I'm going to align the text boxes left, and I would like to align my text boxes with my labels. Let's align tops. So click, shift click, format, align tops. So everything is now neatly lined up. Looks like we need a little more space on our form. I will still have to add a label for the sum. And the label for the sum goes here. And for that matter, we can simply copy what we have, since we like the font, and paste. We do not want to create a control array. Place it in here, and I will misalign it on purpose so that we can clean it up. We do not need a caption. And we do need to update the label to say LBL sum, to update the name. Now let's quickly line up left. That's neatly arranged. I clicked somewhere else to deselect. Click once again on the first object, click on the second, and let us align tops. Here we go. The last thing we need are 3 command buttons. So let's place our first command button and change the caption. This one looks like it's add with an ampersand in front of the A. Once again, font is a little small. Let's increase font. And CMD add. Everything is set up nicely. We can copy and paste. Remember, no control array. The second one is going to be CMD clear with a caption of ampersand clear, ampersand CLEAR. There we go. And last, no control array, exit, CMD exit. And let's give the caption E ampersand XIT. Remember that X is the hotkey for exit. I'd like to have these all lined up neatly and spread out neatly, so let's misalign them so that you can see the change. Shift click, format, align tops, format, horizontal spacing, make equal. Notice how they're now nice and symmetrical and evenly spaced to boot. So here is the interface. We've created the interface. We've set the properties. The last thing to do is to write the code. So, command clear is the first item on the sheet. Let's delete that dead code that was inserted by accident. Here we have command clear. Remember to tab the first time you start typing. Everything should be indented, one level. So we have txt first, and if I type control space and I have done everything correctly, it will auto-complete for me. So that was control space. And now dot, and again, if I have given it the correct object type, I should also have the text property, and it's there. Text first equals quotation, zut alors, we have the French keyboard active, txt second, control space dot text is quotation marks, and last LBL sum dot caption is quotation marks. So that clears everything. Next thing that we were asked to do, so I'm going to click back on the form, double click on add, and the code was dim num1 as integer, dim num2 2 as integer. And my favorite, especially just before lunch, dim sum as integer. Unless you're not a fan of dim sum. Num1, and this is where you have your first input. The value of txt first.text, you have yet to learn about val. You'll learn about that in a few weeks. Txt second.text. So here we have our input, and so that we know what's going on, I am going to add the comment input. Next, I have processing, and this is where I compute the sum is assigned num1 plus num2. Basic addition. And last, we have the output portion of the program, where we update the label with the value sum. So if you take a look, here we have our 2 buttons, and the last one is not on here. You have to remember this yourself from a previous assignment. How do you quit the program? What's the keyword? End. Very good. End. And now if I were to run the program, notice the start button, click. First number, 25. Second number, 33. What is our answer? 58. Very good. And let me clear. It worked. Let me exit. The program worked. One thing that people ran into was when they were copying and pasting, they would do something along these lines. So let me get rid of this second text box. Copy the first. So copy and paste. And instead of clicking no, they would click yes. So let's click yes. I'll put this in here. This one should be not txt first, but should be txt second. So I've basically got it set up the exact same way, except we have an index property. Now let's run this program. 25 plus 33. Add method or data member not found. This error shows up when you have control arrays, which are created when you copy and paste and click yes. We were just looking at the control array that was created when you copy and paste and then click yes on the question that's asked. When you see the error that shows up, after you debug, you'll see that this item is highlighted in blue, the property. Typically, this means that either you have the wrong object type, so for instance, you're trying to work with a label when it should be a text box, or vice versa, or you have a control array. In this case, we've got a control array, and I'll show you how to get rid of the control array without having to recreate everything. The way you eliminate the control array is by going back to the form, and you will choose the offending objects from the properties list here. Anything with a number in a bracket is part of a control array. So to deal with it, you will need to get rid of the index property. So let's choose txt first, scroll down to the index, and I will eliminate the index. Backspace and then enter key. And now I need to go to my txt second. Again, I need to take the index property, get rid of any value in there, press enter, and now my program should work again. So if I type in 25 plus 33, click add, you'll notice this time it worked properly. Clear, and we press exit, and at this point, this is highlighted, it's not an error.